All right, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today. My name's Pam. I'll probably do more of a beginner type class today. I'll usually, give options if you need, extra options for things. I'll also let you know things that you can use for props as well if you need to use something alternative to a yoga prop. So for example, I usually have blocks handy, but if you don't have blocks, you can use a book, you could use a jug of vinegar, you could use a jug of dishwashing liquid, anything that's pretty solid. I know sometimes if I go to yoga class and I forget my blocks, my water bottle can work. If you don't have a yoga belt, or yoga strap with a little clip. You can also use a tie or a Dynaband if you have one of those. If you have a cloth belt at home as well, that might work. A leather belt might not have as much give and it might be a bit heavy, but it would do in a pinch. If you don't have a bolster, then you could have some pillows handy. If you don't have a zafu, same idea, or a meditation cushion. And it's a good idea to have a blanket or a towel or something to prop your knees if you need to, for example, just to make the floor a little softer, or your elbows sometimes it could do work there. So I'll usually begin the practice. I will sit, but for yourself, you can lie back. You can also choose to sit with me if you prefer. So basically what we do here is we lie on our backs. Personally, I don't like having a blanket underneath me, but if you wanted to, you could have a pillow or blanket underneath your head. If you're wearing glasses, you might wish to remove them, at least for the moment, just so that your eyes can rest a little bit more and so can your face. If your back is feeling tired or sore, or you've been sitting a lot, it might just feel nicer to have your knees bent and resting together. Arms comfortably away from you at your sides, or you can lengthen your legs along the mat. Just let them be mat width apart on the mat, arms face up and away from you comfortably. And that just lets your shoulders relax, it lets your body ease. Alternatively, you can put a bolster, a chair, or blankets or pillows underneath your knees just to give them some height, or you can sit with me. So choose whichever position is most comfortable for you for our beginning meditation, for our beginning part of the session. And just sitting up nice and tall if you're seated. And wherever you are, closing your eyes for a moment. And coming into your breath. Maybe you rushed to your mat today. And that's okay, just trying to invite a little bit of ease before we begin our practice. Noticing your breath without judgment. So just noticing how the breath is doing. Maybe it's fast or slow. Can you notice the breath in your belly? If it helps you, place your hands on your belly, whether you're lying back or seated. Just placing your hands on your belly and feel the belly rise as you breathe in. And fall back towards your spine as you breathe out. And as adults, we don't necessarily breathe this way anymore. So it might feel a little bit foreign, but that's okay. Just an invitation to breathe in this way. Maybe you're holding tension in the body as you think about the breath. There's nothing to do here, just let your body breathe naturally. And if belly breathing doesn't feel natural yet, that'll come in time. Inviting your shoulders to ease. Notice, again, without judgment, if you're holding any tension anywhere in your body. Try to send the breath there. Filling each part with fresh oxygen as you breathe in. Maybe an invitation of a little bit of a release and letting go as you breathe out. And setting an intention for the class today. Or maybe even the rest of the week or weekend or until we meet again. If it resonates you, setting an intention to have an awareness of your breath. To check in with your breath. Whether that's through your practice for today. Or maybe even as you go through each day. So again, perhaps until we meet again. Just to connect. Maybe this week you stand in line for something. And while you're standing in line, you just check in with your breath. Maybe try to do a little bit of belly breathing while you're just to practice a little bit. And if a different type of intention resonates better with you for today, then set that for yourself, whatever it may be. Maybe it's to be mindful of how you talk to yourself or the words that you choose. Be mindful of how you're feeling, how your body's feeling. Take a few moments to set this intention for yourself as you continue to rest and breathe for a little while longer. Allowing the body to ease a little bit more with each breath out. And to fill and expand with each breath in. In your time, with an awareness of your breath continuing, begin to move your body a tiny bit. Maybe wiggling fingers and toes. Maybe having a yawn and a stretch, stretching your arms out to one direction, your feet into another. If you're sitting with me, coming down onto the mat, onto your back, perhaps having your belt handy. Oops. And from here, if your knees aren't bent, slowly bringing your knees back up, placing your feet on the mat, and exhaling one knee towards your chest, and drawing circles on the ceiling with that knee. So just warming up the body slowly, working one direction and then the other. We'll just get the synovial fluid moving in the hips. Because we want to ask our hips to do a little bit of work today of opening up. And then eventually switching legs. So exhaling to switch, drawing circles in one direction, and then eventually changing directions. So getting that fluid moving in the hip socket. And you'll notice I'm not rocking and rolling my body everywhere. I'm trying to isolate the movement in that leg, in the hip socket, so that you can get the fluid moving in that area. Eventually, pause, come back to center. Exhale both knees to your chest, and then just circling your wrists and ankles in both directions, just waking up those limbs, getting everything moving a little bit, maybe shake everything out. Placing your feet back down on the mat, exhale your arms to the ceiling. And notice if you've lifted your shoulders off. Try to drop your arms in your shoulder sockets. So if you need to, lift and drop a couple times to make sure they're in there. So you can wiggle around like I am in one. Then you're going to place a hand on each elbow. Okay, so I'm not squishing, squeezing, or pushing. I'm just placing. And then from here, I'm just going to draw circles on the ceiling with my elbows. First in one direction, just nice, slow, gentle circles. And then in the other direction. Still there's my breath. Eventually I'm going to pause and center. And I'm going to exhale my arms in this position to one side. So exhale, my belly comes back. My arms drop to one side. Again, I'm not pushing or pulling on my arms, just letting gravity do the work. Still there's my breath. On my next breath out, I come back to center and then all the way over to the other side. And one side might be tighter than the other, and that's okay. We can notice without judgment. Just being with your breath for a moment here. And then eventually exhale and pause in the center again and let that go. Just remember that there's no pain in yoga. So I might ask you to do things. So exhale your knee to your chest and then place your ankle on your opposite thigh. So if this is painful in your ankle or your knee or your hip or shoulders, anything that we do, listen to your body. Like if it hurts your back, try not to let there be pain. Muscle work is okay, like if your quad is working. As I inhale, my knee comes away. As I exhale, my knee comes closer. So we're just going to open and close the garden gate here. So it's okay if this, maybe eventually when I'm doing some of my movements, the muscles are working. So for example, I'm going to open in the most open position here and breathe for a moment. Then I'm going to ask my abs to work. So if I feel that the abs are working, then that's okay. But if I feel a pain in a joint on my back, that's when the body's trying to tell you back off. From here, I'm going to exhale my belly back, squeeze those muscles and bring my legs towards me. Now, if I can't reach both hands underneath and around, maybe I use that belt that I have handy. So maybe I put that around the leg, or maybe I just hold the top leg, or maybe I don't hold it all. I'm just using my abs here. But shoulders are eased and I'm breathing. Eventually, I'm going to exhale and release. And then I'm going to switch. So maybe I shift the legs, ankle on the other leg, opposite side. And I'm going to open and close the gate. And one side is probably tighter than the other. I know my left side is much tighter for my hips on the other side. Sorry, on my left side. And you might find the same one is tighter than the other. That's normal. Just opening, closing the gate. As I inhale, I open. As I exhale, I close. Working with your breath, working with your body. Again, my movement isn't as big on this side because I've got the tightness. And so I'm letting that resistance guide me because I don't want to overstretch. Eventually exhale and both legs come towards you in this position. And if you'll notice, I have less mobility on this side. So maybe I hold my pants, maybe I hold on to that top leg, maybe I don't hold it all, but I'm using those abs to help my legs stay up and get a bit of a stretch in the hips. Breathing here. If you can bind behind this leg, you can move off to your hands, if that works for you. Eventually slowly release. Let that go, shake that out. From here, we're going to come to a bit of a restorative pose. And this is a really nice pose if you're tired. You can even prop yourself with pillows or blankets or what have you underneath the knees. Exhale your belly back and allow your knees to fall open to either side. And you don't have to stay here very, very long. It's just a nice way to open the hips. So as I said, you could put pillows, blankets, what have you under the knees. You can do this in bed if you want as well. Especially sometimes for women when we're menstruating, we're extra tired. And these days we might just be extra tired anyway. So doing a pose like this can help us restore a little bit. And while we're here, we can invite our shoulders to open as well. So we can exhale our arms to the ceiling, again, making sure our arms are in our shoulder sockets. Please bring your legs out anytime you need and just come back in when you're ready. From here, I'm going to give myself a hug with one arm on top. And so I'm in a little bit of an open position with the legs, a little bit of a pretzel position with the arms. But I'm very passively opening my hips and the back of my shoulders, my upper back. I'm just breathing here. And if the hips are tight, you might feel this a lot in the legs, and if the shoulders aren't, maybe not so much in the shoulders, or vice versa. Continuing to breathe in your belly if that works for you. Eventually exhale and open up the arms. Again, anytime you need to take the legs out for a break, take them out. In your time, you're going to exhale and opposite arm comes on the top. Maybe you come back with the legs. Maybe you leave the legs out of it if it's enough for you. Listen to your body. Be with the breath. Opening up. Eventually, on an exhalation, slowly bring the arms out. Maybe the arms can help you bring the legs up. Exhale your knees to your chest and just have a gentle rock from side to side. Head, neck, shoulders, everything comes with you. From here, a nice stretch for the low back and the hamstrings, especially if we're sitting a lot, or maybe even if we run, because the hamstrings will get tight because of that as well, or if we're working out a lot. Holding underneath the knee on one leg, exhale and lengthen the other leg along the mat. And then move with your breath. So as I breathe in, my belly gets bigger. I want to give my legs some room. As I exhale, my belly comes back. I can maybe invite that knee a little bit closer to me. But I'm trying not to roll my shoulders or tense my shoulders. My shoulders are rolling down the back. Moving with your breath. Eventually, both knees come back in, and then we switch. So lengthening the other leg along the mat, and bringing the other knee in. Inhale to let that leg fall a little bit away. Exhale, it comes back in. And the down leg is standing up. This is also a nice way to stretch the hip flexors as well. So whether you're sitting a lot or you're running or walking a lot, these are some nice stretches. Eventually exhale both knees into the chest, having a gentle rock from side to side. And then letting that go. From here, we're going to roll to our right side for a breath or two. Using your arm as a pillow, place your top arm, your hand on the mat or the floor. And then in your time, use your arms to bring you to a seated position. Right. So lying down is our base pose for all our work on the floor. And then we'll do our base pose for all our work on all fours, which is table pose. So Shavasana or corpse pose is the pose for when we're on the floor. Table is for when we're on all fours. I have a double mat, so I'm okay without padding my knees, but if you need to pad your knees, put a blanket or double your mat or roll your mat up. If you need some extra padding, if possible, it's better if you can have another prop just so that you continue to have the length of your mat to work with. So from here, we're just going to do table pose and then we'll do some cats. If you're really familiar with yoga and you know for cats, dog, child, then by all means, please go ahead. Otherwise, you can take your time with us. So from here, what we're going to do is place our hands right underneath our shoulders. And we're going to roll our shoulder blades down our back. So in table pose, I could come and put, a tray on your back and it wouldn't spill. From here, we're going to come into cat. So cat, the movement starts in my hips. And as I go to cat head down, my tailbone looks down, my back comes up, and my head comes down. And as I breathe in, my tailbone starts to look up, my back comes down, my head comes up. When I breathe out, I come back to center, and then I add a third and fourth cat by doing lateral movement. So it's as if I'm wrapping my body around a pole here. So I'm going to try to look at my bum is going to try to look at me. I come back to neutral, and then I work on the other side. The whole time my shoulder blades are rolled down my back, my elbows are soft. Let's do that one more time, all 4 cats. Right, head down, breathe out, squeeze the belly in. Tailbone looks up, back comes down, head comes up, breathe in for cat, head up cat. Exhale to come to neutral, take a breath. And then exhale to one side. I look at my bum looks at me. Inhale center, exhale side. Maybe we'll end with a head down flat. And then coming back to neutral. From here, we're going to come to child's pose. And this is a pose that you can do anytime you need a rest when we're working together. So it might be nice to widen your knees and bring your toes together. I don't reach, but if you can, sit on your heels. Reach the hands forward. Bring your forehead to the mat. And then you can rest your arms down. If your mat doesn't reach the if your forehead doesn't reach the mat, or the mat doesn't reach your forehead, you can put a block, a blanket, a pillow, or anything you like underneath the forehead, just to bring the mat to you. You can also stack your hands or fists and give yourself some room that way as well. So this is your resting pose. Take a couple of breaths here. And anytime you need a break with our work, that's the pose you can come to. When you're ready, slowly come up. And we'll come back to all 4s, and we'll come back to our table pose. And we'll just wake up the back a little bit here and get our balance, see how our balance is doing today. So make sure your knees are back under your hips, arms are straight under your shoulders, fingers are spread. Try to spread the weight out in your fingertips, not just in your wrist and your thumb mound, because that can cause some wrist discomfort. So from here, we're going to work with our belly. I'm going to exhale my belly back, and I'm going to lift my left leg and my right arm. I'm going to breathe here. Shoulder blades are rolled down my back. I'm going to slowly come back, and then I'm going to switch. So lifting the left arm and the right leg. And we'll do that a couple of times. If you're super wobbly, maybe you just do one at a time. That's okay. Okay, so maybe just lift one leg and then the other arm and then the other leg. We'll do that a few more times. So this helps us to strengthen our core. Invite our back and our bellies to do some work. It helps us to stretch out a little bit as well. There we go. All right. So from here, we'll just rest in child's pose for a moment. Again, if you need to, you can always stack your fists or hands underneath your forehead. We'll just do one more thing on the wrist before we ask your body to, before we change things up, if that works for everyone. So we're going to come to downward dog. And so to come to downward dog, we're rolling our shoulder blades down our back. We're stretching our fingertips open wide, placing the weight evenly distributed as we can onto our fingertips, all of them. Maybe the elbows start to look forward a little bit. Exhale your belly back, curl your toes. Use your core strength to lift you up. Your heels may or may not come to the mat, that's okay. And maybe since this is probably our first dog of the day, We just move around a little bit until we find a comfortable dog pose. Okay, so we have got a nice flat back going, shoulders are open, head is let go, knees are bent, breathing here. Downward dog is actually a resting pose when we do sun salutations, but you can also come to child's pose if you need. Okay, so when you're ready, coming down with child's pose, having a couple of breaths. Again, if your forehead doesn't reach the mat, prop your forehead. And if you're like me and your bum doesn't reach your heels, that's okay too. When you're ready, we'll come to standing. So come to standing however it's most comfortable for you. If you're a seasoned yogi and you want to come to downward dog and then walk your hands to your feet, you can do that. Otherwise, come to standing however it's most comfortable for you. If you're coming to standing from a forward bend, make sure your knees are bent, your belly is engaged, and you inhale and roll up one vertebrae at a time. We don't want anyone getting dizzy, especially if they have low blood pressure, because I really don't want you to fall down. Then we can shake all that out. Take a sip of water whenever you need. And take a moment to check in with your breath whenever you need. All right. So we'll come to our base pose for standing work, which is Tadasana, or mountain pose. And even for a seasoned yogi, Tadasana is different every day, just like all our poses. So maybe just take a moment to find Tadasana. So what is Tadasana? Tadasana is mountain pose. It's basically standing up. But it's standing up so that my ankles and my knees and my hips and my shoulders are all lined up. If you're comfortable, close your eyes for a moment. And as you exhale your belly back, maybe you invite your body to think about growing a little taller through the center point of your top of your head towards the sky and through your tailbone towards the earth. Breathing here. Lengthening the spine. Inviting strength into the body. Because as you're here, you're actually emulating a mountain. So that, if I was in the room with you and I could give you a little nudge, you wouldn't go anywhere because you're as strong and as sturdy as a mountain. Breathing for a moment. So when you're ready, slowly open your eyes, let that go, and just shake that out. All right. So from here, I'd like to wake up the hips a little bit. So we're going to do a funny walk, or the school of silly walks here. So basically, I'm doing hip circles again, but this time I'm walking hip circles. So I'm testing my balance a little bit here. I'm opening up and walking towards you. And then I'm going to slowly go backwards as well. Okay? So if it doesn't work for you backwards, that's okay. I get to cheat a little because I can see in the camera, but that might mess me up though. So focus just on working with a couple of hip circles to open up the hips as you walk. Beautiful. All right. So we'll let that go and shake that out. And then we're going to come to Warrior One. So this will help us work our thighs a little bit and open our hips a little bit before we move on. All right. So I'm coming to Tadasana, or my mountain pose. Okay, so just like we did here, we're standing up nice and tall, hips, knees, shoulders, everything's lined up, ankles. I'm going to do this at the top of my mat. I'm going to exhale my belly back, test my balance a little bit, and I'm going to bring my right knee towards my chest. From here, I'm going to step back into Warrior One. So in Warrior One, my legs are facing forward, my feet are mostly facing forward. The back foot turns out a tiny bit. My legs aren't monorail, they're train tracks though, okay? Because if they're monorail or in one line, then I might wobble and fall over. I might even wobble here, but that's okay. That's gonna engage my proprioception muscles and make me stronger. So from here, I'm gonna bend the front knee. The back knee is slightly bent. Even though that leg is mostly straight, it's slightly bent. I'm not locking my joints ever. So my headlights on my hip bones are facing forward. Okay, so the hips are facing forward. I'm facing forward. From here, I can do a tiny back bend if I want, but I'm gonna bend from my upper back here, this part. So exhale my belly back, float my arms up. And maybe I do a tiny back bend and gaze up. If your shoulders are really tense or you feel like you're bringing your shoulders to your ears, you can always be in cactus arms. So cactus arms are here. Okay. So Warrior One, nice strong warriors. Breathing into this pose. If you want to drop the arms, if you're too hot, if you have high blood pressure, if the body just doesn't like it, don't worry about the arms. You're working the legs here, you're opening the hips, you're strengthening and stretching the legs as we say. From here, you're going to exhale my belly back. I'm just going to switch so you can see a bit better. I'm going to open up the back foot a little bit more. And I'm opening up the hips a little bit more. But this knee might want to fall in. So I'm going to open it up and make sure it stays facing forward. Okay. So now I'm in a bit of a twist. So from here, I can actually bring my arms into Warrior Two arms. Okay. So Warrior Two, I'm gazing over the front hand. My knee is bent still in the front. My back leg is open up more. But now I'm in more of a twist than I am facing forward. Okay. Put the knee is forward, the head is forward, my front hand is forward. Breathing here. Check in with the back knee, it's not locked. From here, I'm going to exalt my warrior. So I'm going to turn that palm up. Gaze at the top hand, come into a bit of a back bend here. And breathe. And then slowly release. I'm going to release my arms, release my legs, and come back into Tadasana. And then we'll do the same on the other side. Okay, so shaking that out. This time I'm going to step my left foot back. So from here, again, coming to Tadasana or mountain pose. So nice, strong, tall, everything's in line. Exhale my belly back. Test my balance a little bit by bringing my left knee towards my chest this time. And then from here, I'm going to step that foot back. Open up slightly, but again, this pose I'm facing forward. So it's not a huge open, but there is a little bit of an opening on that back foot. Why do we do that? Well, it protects our back knee. Okay, we also want this knee to be slightly bent, not locked. The front knee is bent. And again, now we're facing forward. So we went from mountain pose to Warrior One. Again, in Warrior One, I can exhale my belly back, float my arms up, come into a back bend. I can be in cactus arms. So cactus arms are just open up more. This is especially important if you feel like your shoulders are up around your ears. You want to keep them away from your ears and rolling down your back. So if that's really difficult for now, you can just be in cactus arms. That's okay. Or maybe there's no arms today. Maybe you're tired, maybe it's making you too hot, maybe you have high blood pressure and not just giving you hot. Listen to your body. From here, I'm going to open up so that back foot's going to turn out a little bit more. The front foot, the front knee might want to fall in. Make sure it doesn't fall in, it should still face forward. Because otherwise that's going to torque the knee. It's not going to be a fun place for you to be. So now I'm going to twist. So as I twist open, I can open up the arms. And I gaze at the front bend. Breathing here. So I'm still working the legs and opening the hips. I'm being with my breath. A little bit of work for the legs. And this is where it's easier to feel the difference, hopefully, between the muscle work, soreness versus joint soreness. So, if my back was really sore in this pose, I wouldn't want to do that. But if my thigh is starting to say, hey, hello, I'm working, that's okay. That's a good kind of, a good kind of cue. And then from here, we can come to Exalted Warrior. So I'm going to turn my palm up. I'm going to come into that tiny back bend and breathe here. But everything in the legs stays the same. Exalted Warrior. And then slowly come back. And then stepping back into Tadasana. Letting that go and shaking that out. Again, take a sip of water if you need. Anytime you need. From here, we're going to come into Goddess Pose. So we'll ask the hips for a little bit more. So I'm going to turn my feet out. But everything else is the same. So from Tadasana, from Mountain Pose, everything's lined up. All I'm doing is stepping my feet out a bit. And when I bend my knees, I want to bend and stick out my bum. Because what I'm doing here is I'm bending back. I don't want to bend straight down because that's not good for the knees, okay? So when I bend, I stick out my bum. All right? I'm not behind you. I'm not staring at your bum, so it's all good. So I'm showing everyone that my neighbor's my bum, but that's okay. They're used to it. All right, so I'm going to stick out my bum when I come to Goddess Pose. As I bend. And here I'm in sort of a cactus arm for Goddess Pose. Breathing here. So this is a nice strengthening pose. And I'm breathing. And I'm feeling the hips open. So maybe I'm rotating the thighs open like a book opening. Try not to clench the floor with my feet. And stay as long as it feels good. And then let that go. Really important to listen to your knees here. So we're opening our hips, but we want to listen to the knees. So there's a couple different ways you can do a squat. You can do the squats with something under your knees, something under your heels like a blanket or a bolster or a cushion. Or you can widen your feet more to get closer to the ground. What we don't really want to see is coming to a squat here and then lifting the heels without any support, okay? So if you can have like a cushion underneath you so that as you come to the squat, you have something underneath your heels. Okay, but for me, I'm just gonna be wide and that'll give me the ability to come down and keep my heels on the ground, which protects my knees a little bit more. So I'm gonna come to Namaste. So Namaste is just prayer position with the hands in the middle of the chest. So this keeps my shoulder blades rolled down my back, keeps my palms warm, resting together, supporting my hands. From here, I'm gonna exhale my belly back, and I'm gonna squat. So I'm sticking out my bum, and I'm coming down. And I'm gonna sit up as tall as I can. And breathe here. So again, maybe there's something under your heels. Maybe you're this wide and you've still got something under your heels. That's okay. Don't stay too long. This is a pretty intense pose. I just thought we would try it for fun. Now you can come out of this by coming onto your bum or coming down to the floor. Or if you want to strengthen your legs a little bit, you want to feel like a little bit of a challenge for today, exhale your belly back and come up very slowly, especially if you have low blood pressure, just to come back to standing. And then let that go. Keep that. All right. Let's try that one more time. So pick the position that works for you. If you want to try it another way, like if you want to try your feet closer together and see if that happens, you can try that. So for me, if I come down there, I actually have to lift my heels. But if I make that a little bit wider, it's great to come all the way down. So listen to your body, see what works. Again, if you want to challenge yourself, use your core, use your legs when you're coming out. On an exhalation of your belly back. Very slowly. That's going back to sleep. And then eventually it should belly lift up. Right. From here, let's try a little bit of balancing. So we've done a little bit so far already. But we've opened up our hips a lot. Let's try a fun dancer's pose. So we can stretch out our quads a little bit. So if you have a wall nearby, it might be nice. We've got, a door or furniture. So from here though, whatever you're working with, if whatever is nearby, what you want to do here is make sure the standing leg is next to the prop, okay? Or you can work in the room. You might want to have a belt handy for this though, okay? So have your belt handy or your tie or die band. So from here, I'm going to start by standing in Tadasana, taking the top of my foot into my hand. Again, maybe I have a wall. And then maybe this is my pose, and that's okay. If I want to take it a step further, I can lengthen my arm that's not holding my foot along the side of my ear. I'm pressing the top of my foot into my hand. If I want to take that further, I could also start to tip. So from here, my thighs are facing forward, my hips are facing forward. Maybe I start to tip, but I'm still pressing that foot into that hand. Pick a spot to stare at that doesn't move if you're going to balance without a wall or a prop. Okay. The other thing you can do is if that's not accessible for you, you can always use your belt, right? So I can always put the belt around my foot instead and do it that way. Okay, so all I'm doing is extending the length of my arm by using a belt. Okay, so everything the same. I come from Tadasana, take the top of the belt into my hand instead. Maybe I lengthen my opposite arm. Maybe I can tip forward, maybe not. Just listen to your body. But your hips stay facing forward. So just like in Warrior One, the hips are forward, the face is forward. But in balancing, it helps to stare at something that doesn't move. Okay, so hips are forward, feet are forward. Try to level off the hips. Breathing here. Try one side. Try the other. Maybe try to balance. See if it works just for fun. If not, that's okay. Just let go. Take your time. When it's enough, shake it out. From here, we're going to grab our blocks, or we can have our furniture if we have our furniture nearby. So if you can have furniture or a wall, especially if you're not used to doing forward bends, that would be ideal. Because in forward bend, we want to practice trying to get a flat back, okay? And if we have really tight hamstrings, that won't work. So you might need to super bend your knees to get your flat back. Basically what you're doing is you're bending your knees from Tadasana and then tipping from your hips. So just like we move our hips in cat pose, we're tipping our hips in forward bend. So in forward bend, I want to be nice and long and tall in my spine. Breathing here, bend my knees as much as I need. Maybe I can come to blocks, but only if I keep that nice flat back. If I'm here, I'm not really stretching out the back and the back of the legs. If I'm here, that's okay, because I'm still got that flat back going on. So even if I'm really, really bent to the knees, I'm still tipping in my hips and I've still got the flat back, okay? So pick how high you need to be. Maybe you're using like the top of a chair or something like that, top of a couch, a wall, anything that you need to practice with that flat back. Or, maybe you're a seasoned yogi, or maybe you're super flexible and you can reach the mat. That's okay too. Breathing here, wherever the pose is for you. Inhale up to a halfway lift, and if you're already on a piece of furniture, then halfway lift might be to your thighs. And then exhale and fold back into your pose wherever that is for you. Even if you're flexible, the knees will not lock, they're soft. Maybe shaking your head no a little bit. When you come up, do so slowly, one vertebrae at a time. Let the head be the last to come. Check that out and let that go. All right. So I think we'll come back down to mat for a moment and do some base work for sitting. We probably sit too much, but we don't often sit on the floor. And so this is a little bit different. And if you feel like you're having a really hard time sitting up tall, what you can do is actually just place a blanket, a prop, a zafu underneath you, because what that helps to tip your hips forward again. So just like we tip our hips forward in cat, we also tip our hips forward in forward bend. Same idea when we're sitting. Okay, so if we add a little bit of height, we can invite our hips to tip a little bit forward. And what that does is it gives the back a little bit more room to have a nice flat back. It might help you have straighter legs. If you have really tight hamstrings, what you can do is, this can be Dandasana. Okay, so Dandasana is staff pose. It's our base pose for all our seated work. And so maybe I've got my legs wide, falling apart, and I've got my knees bent. That's okay. This can be Dandasana. Okay. Maybe you're in staff pose and it works for you. It's comfortable. You've got your nice flat back. You're sitting up nice and tall. Your feet are as if they were standing up. But if this doesn't work for you, bend your knees more, open your feet more, add a prop underneath your bum if you need. Okay. So listen to your body. See where Dandasana is for you. So from here, just staff pose. And this may not seem like much, but just like mountain pose, this is still a pose where it requires strength and flexibility. And that comes with time as we practice, if it's not there yet. You can just breathe in this pose, and maybe you can feel the legs working as we sit. You can feel the abs working to keep us tall. You can feel the shoulders easing. If it's comfortable for you, pause in staff pose for a moment and just exhale one ear to one shoulder. And still there's your breath. Now my neck is quite tight, so I'm not going to take this further, but if you wanted to, you could just place your hand on the head just to get a little bit of extra weight. But it's not necessary. Eventually exhale, slowly come back to center, come to the other side. Breathing back in. And from here, coming back to center, allowing your chin to float towards your chest and looking towards one armpit. And then in your time, slowly come back to the chest and look to the other armpit. Slowly come back to center and then slowly come up. If you need to come out of staff pose or any other pose that I invite you to try anytime, please do so. From here, we're going to come to Janu Sirsasana. So I'm going to bend my right knee. My foot is standing up. If I can, it comes to the groin. If not, that's okay too. I'm going to let it fall out. And I'm just going to use a block here. I've got lots of props for myself for today. Maybe your knee is on the mat and you don't need anything. Maybe you don't have a block, but maybe you're just using a block position. And this other leg is still standing up. Okay? So well, both feet are standing up. And what I mean by that is they're active. I'm not just letting my feet go. I'm actually actively, as if I were going to stand on the inner thigh and stand on this leg here. Okay? So I'm sitting up nice and tall. And then from here, I'm going to come to a baby forward bend. I'm going to lead with my sternum. I'm going to exhale my belly back, and I'm just going to come forward a tiny, tiny bit. And this is my forward bend. Dandasana is actually called head to knee pose. But until we have that flat back, and we can go down with the flat back, we actually don't want to get there just yet. So breathing here. If you're a seasoned yogi, you know Dandasana. You want to go for it, go for it. Just keep in mind that just because you're flexible doesn't mean you need to go all the way every time. Sometimes it's nice to back off. Just to give your body some space to grow in different ways. Eventually let that go and shake that out. Then we're going to stand up our left foot. Let that leg fall open, but it's standing on the inner thigh. Into the blind part, perhaps. This other leg is standing up as well. I'm going to lead with my sternum, and I'm going to come to a baby forward bend in Dandasana. And I usually say lead with the sternum, and I keep my arms here because if I'm bringing my arms out here, I'm trying to reach for something. And I'd rather focus on having a nice, long, tall spine, strong core, strong legs, before I worry about what's in front of me or trying to reach something. Breathe in here. Eventually let that go. Shake that out. And then from here, we'll actually come to Tadasana seated. So all I did was open the legs and bring the feet together. Breathing there. Feeling the knees fall out. Feeling the hips open up. And being with the breath. Closing your eyes here if you're comfortable for a moment. And then if this is an okay place for you, coming back to opening your eyes, and we'll do a very gentle twist in this position. So from here, I'm going to exhale my belly back and twist towards the right. Looking over my shoulder if that works for me. Shoulders my brow. So nice, gentle, open twist. Again, if you're a seasoned yogi and you want to go back to Dandasana and do a twist or a bind, by all means, go for it. Otherwise, just sitting with a gentle twist in Dandasana, eventually coming back. The Pelvic Pose. Exhale your belly back and twist into the left. Maybe gaze over that shoulder. Breathe here. And then eventually, again, if you're going to do the Dandasana a bit, then please make sure you do both sides even. Eventually helping your knees to come back up. Shake that out. And we'll just do a gentle forward bend from staff pose or Dandasana or face pose for seated work. We'll come to Tadasana or seated forward bend. So again, leading with the sternum. Exhale your belly back and tipping forward wherever it's comfortable for you. Maybe your hands are by your sides to remind you not to worry about reaching. If you really feel like it's so important to you that you must touch your feet and it's not something that's accessible, you can always use a belt. The only thing is you don't want to tug or pull on the belt. You're just holding it gently. It's just an extension of your arms.
Breathe in here. Long and tall in your spine. Shoulders roll down your back. Being with each breath in each moment. Eventually, exhale, slowly come up. Then put back onto our backs. So from here, we're going to go into a gentle rock. Exhaling both knees towards our chest and just rocking from side to side. Head, neck, shoulders, everything comes with you, releasing any tension you have along the spine. From here, it might be nice to come back to that pose we did in the beginning, bring one knee towards the chest at a time, just to stretch out a little bit more. Exhaling to switch legs. One knee to a chest at a time. Working with the breath. Down leg is stand up. Eventually back to center. And then from here, we'll just come to a gentle pelvic lift. So stepping our feet a little bit closer to our buttocks. Rolling our shoulder blades down our back. Exhale our belly back and just floating up with a flat back. Just a very gentle pelvic lift. If you're familiar with bridge pose and you want to take it there, go ahead. Breathing here. Easing the shoulders into the mat. Feeling the strength in the core and the legs. And when you come down, do so slowly, one vertebrae at a time. And then in your time, bringing your knees to your chest again to have a gentle rock. Before you lie back for Shavasana, you might want to grab some socks or a blanket, a chair or bolster or pillows or blankets for underneath your knees. Take what you need for Shavasana. And then before we lie back completely, it might be nice to do a gentle twist. So just exhaling your knees to one side, your head to the other. Just for a breath or two. Coming back to center, allowing the knees to fall to the opposite side. Again, listen to your body. Maybe your head doesn't come to the opposite direction of the breathing. Eventually come back to center, last rock. And then move or stretch in any other way that you need to before you lie back for Shavasana. So again, maybe you're propping underneath your knees, maybe your knees stay bent, or maybe you're comfortable with a wide legs and your arms wide. So come to your Shavasana. You can also feel free to sit with me instead. Coming back to your breath. Closing your eyes and removing your glasses if you wish. Take an inhale from the tips of your toes to the top of your head. Fill every part of your body with fresh oxygen as you breathe in. And as you breathe out, sigh it all out and maybe even make a noise. Maybe taking a couple of breaths that way. Sometimes it might feel nice to tense everything as you breathe in, and then as you breathe out, let everything go. Sigh it out, make noise, let go. Being with each breath and each moment. Let there be nothing else. Rejuvenating after your breath for a few moments. Breathing into the breath. Breathing into the breath. Letting go. nothing to do here. Just rest and breathe. Let there be nothing else. I invite you to stay in Shavasana for as long as you wish. If you'd like to close your practice with us, eventually roll to your right side for a breath or two, and then use your arms to bring you to a seated position. In your time, bring your hands into the center of your chest in namaste. The soul or light or divine honors the soul or light or divine. Namaste. I hope you enjoyed your practice with me today. If you have any questions or concerns, please feel free to type them in the chat. Otherwise, I look forward to seeing you next week. Thank you so much.